Alright, as this video is going to be released, I will be on holidays, so that's why I feature this content on my channel instead of the usual battle report. So normally I get about one game a week in, and yeah, as I'm not here in the country, I didn't get a game in, of course. So I asked around a bit, and some people were quite interested in having some tactical insights on some battles that I have played. So I'm just going to look at a couple of scenarios, and yeah, we'll just discuss on the options that we have in the game, and see whether well, you can check the battle reports and see what I did instead, and you'll also hear me talk about it, of course. So let's get to the first one. This is my battle against the Infernal Dwarves with my Empire of Sonsdal army. I chose this because it has a lot of different options in the game. So part of it is because the Empire has orders, and you can use the infantry in a very wide variety of ways. Yeah, that's the main reason, really. So yeah, you can see a picture of the board, and I'm going to just look at this from the Empire perspective, just because I was playing it, and I'm more into Empire, so I don't really know a lot about the Infernal Dwarves. So for the Empire line, it's about turn 2, and it's the turn where Empire gets to go. So what do we have? On the left we have some Imperial Rangers, some Reiters with repeater guns, Heavy Infantry, which is a support unit, another unit of Heavy Infantry, which is a parent unit with an Inquisitor and a Prelate. Then we have Heavy Infantry support with the BSB. We have a small unit of crossbowmen near the trees. And then we have a Wizard on the Griffin, a Steam Tank in the middle of the field, the Knights of the Sun Griffin hanging a little bit more back, an Imperial Prince on the Griffin, so he has the Runefang, well, the old Runefang, so that's now the Light of Sonsdal, where every hit is an auto wound with AP10. He's next to a mortar. There's still one Reiter left from yeah, he was the rest of his unit was shot down by a volley from the Hobgoblins with bows that you can see down in the field. And then to end it off, we have some crossbowmen. And then for the Infernal Dwarves, it's pretty hefty loaded on the left flank with Qadim Incarnates all the way on the left, facing upwards, some Warhounds, a Bull Centaur hero, Bull Centaurs, Infernal Warriors with great weapons, so these are all just well, kind of hard combat units. Then we have Infernal Warriors with blunderbusses, Qadim Incarnates, and they are actually facing downwards because, well, they are frenzied, and my opponent was worried about this, so he was facing them downwards. Yeah, yeah, we'll see. Then we have the Hobgoblins with bows, and to round it off the field, you can't really see them. There's still 2 ballistas and a Titan mortar, and I believe even a unit of Hobgoblins with bows on the hill that you can see on the bottom of the table, including his BSB and his wizard, his master. Yeah, so what kind of options do you have? So for the Empire, the first action that you do in your turn is to dish out your orders. So the BSB has an order and the Imperial Prince has an order. The range of the orders are similar to, I believe for the Prince it's the Inspiring Presence range, and for the BSB it's only 6 inches. But yeah, for the BSB I usually end up giving it either to his own unit or the Heavy Infantry parent unit. So yeah, this is interesting. So what I did in my game, I don't remember what I did, but I recently thought about this, and the Inquisitor has a repeater pistol. So this repeater pistol gives you 3 shots with strength 4, with reroll to wound lethal strike D3 wounds, because he's an Inquisitor with blessed steel, with silver shots. So one of the options is to use the BSB to give accurate to your Inquisitor by giving accurate to the unit, and then walking up with the Heavy Infantry either towards the Bull Centaur Hero, to the Kadim Incarnates, or the Bull Centaurs, staying at long range, but you're accurate, so that doesn't matter to you. So you have 3 shots that hit on a 3+, with strength 4, reroll to wound, lethal strike, D3 wounds. So this is good against multiple wound models, which there are a lot. And that is one thing you can do with your order. Also, if your opponent then charges into your unit, you still have a stand and shoot. So this is also on a 3+, becomes a 4+ because of the stand and shoot. Was normally because of the range it would become a 5+. So that would be a well spent order, at least an order that would be much better spent on the heavy infantry than on accurate and crossbowmen, for example. Another possibility is to use an order to give either of the heavy infantry units a 12-inch march. But then again, the Kadim Incarnates, they fly. So I would be tempted to do this if the Kadims were not able to fly, to just move up the heavy infantry right in front of the Kadim Incarnates. So you don't have to sacrifice a dedicated chaff unit like the Imperial Rangers. But yeah, in this case, you don't really want to move up one of your units all the way across the field, I feel. Then you have to fight an extra rank, which is at this point it's really useful because fighting is gonna happen. And otherwise, yeah, with the extra movement you can also ensure your charges. The last one is the minimized discipline. It's always useful also. So currently my Wizard and Griffin, I was trying out Pyromancy lore already in this battle. Sometimes you can take a divination spell and the wizard should just also get a minimized discipline roll. What would be the most useful at this point? I think I would have gone with the accurate order on the heavy infantry with the Inquisitor, just for the shots. But that is only if you decide to be a bit more passive this turn and not charge in with everything. So the reason why I wouldn't charge in with everything, or I would probably not make even a single charge in this case, because basically I am outranging my opponent. It sounds really stupid maybe, but because if you look at the field, I don't have that much ranged output. So going from the left to the right, I have the Imperial Rangers take a march, can try to cause a panic check on the Warhounds, possibly with the help of the... not with the help of the Riders. They could maybe put a panic check on the Warhounds and try to dedicate their life to them. The Kadims, yeah, you can't really block their charge because they're flying. So the only way to block their charge would be to fill up the field with stuff that they don't want to charge. But yeah, they're gonna charge something somewhere. But it's not a real big problem, because if they charge the Riders, they can flee and then rally again. So in this case, I would expect my opponent to at least charge the Riders, so they could flee and rally. So my Imperial Prince has to go to the place where he's within 18 inches of where about the black bag is in this picture, so that he can provide his leadership for the Riders that would want to rally next turn. And for the Imperial Prince, it's not really a big effort to do so, because yeah, he could move down very aggressively towards the Infernal Warriors, but they have blunderbusses, so they can, I believe they can just advance and shoot, so that's 3 inches plus 15 inches on the blunderbusses is 18 inches range. So I could park my Imperial Prince in front of my Knights of the Sun Griffin, but that is not really desirable at all anyway. So you might as well just go to the left side of the crossbowman to to provide opportunity for any counter charges, to provide his leadership to the Riders. and be close to the BSB so that he has reroll and panic tests himself also. So that is some part of the of the turn planned out. So then the heavy infantry, yeah, as long as they're close to the unit in the middle, the parent unit, and not gonna get more than 15 wounds, they're gonna be steadfast against any of my opponent's choices. So they're not really in a bad spot, actually. So the only thing I would have to make certain if I'm going to play passive is to keep the heavy infantry in place, move back the heavy infantry with the Inquisitor and the Prelate so that it can countercharge next turn on the Kadims or the Bull Centaurs that might charge into the support unit of heavy infantry on the left. Make sure that my Inquisitor has some target to shoot at. And yeah, the other heavy infantry unit, even if my opponent is going to put his Bull Centaurs into this unit, I think I will again still maintain a single rank at least, so I will be steadfast. So yeah, we're looking at quite a sturdy line. The only thing I would have to make sure is that I have counter charges available. So for this goal, the steam tank has to stay quite close to the heavy infantry units on the left, and the Imperial Prince has to go behind my lines in a way that he can counter charge if needed. Yeah, so that's I'm feeling quite confident on the left because I have the ranged advantage. My opponent has to take some action to get out of this mess. Whilst, yeah, it looks like his combat power is way greater than mine here because he has such aggressive units. But you shouldn't forget that the Inquisitor has his stand and shoot, and he also has a potion of swiftness with the Hammer of Witches. And he's in a unit with a prelate, so he's going to have 5 attacks with a higher weapon with offensive skill 5, with strength 4, with hatred, with lethal strike, with D3 wounds, and possibly from the prelate, if I get the reroll to wound off, I get also a reroll to wound. So on multiple wound units, this is really amazing. And the Infernal Warriors stay. So this might be a bit of a problem in my opponent's list. The Infernal Warriors don't have the speed to support the rest of his battle line. So yeah, that might be a bit of a problem. If they were quicker, then my heavy infantry would be in a bit of more of a pickle. But as it is, I think I'm good at just standing where I am and yeah, just waiting it out. And then a bit more on the right. So my opponent, his BSB is on the hill. So the Kadim Incarnates, they are currently outside of 12 inches. So they are quite prone to having to charge if they can see something. My opponent shot my Reiter unit down to 1 guy. So this single guy with his repeater gun is not going to achieve much anymore. So I might as well, with the 16 inches that I can move just within line of sight of my Kadim Incarnates of my opponent. So then I would probe a panic check or a frenzy check for these, and that's on a maximized roll. If they fail, then they're gonna charge my Reiter. He's gonna flee away. They're not gonna catch them, so we will have a failed charge. Yeah, that would be a good one. So probably I would do that. And then the Knights of the Sun Griffin can move up that far to be outside of 18 inches of the Infernal Warriors, and then be able to possibly charge the Kadim Incarnates next round, considering that I would expect them to have a failed charge. And yeah, my opponent is all of his mobile stuff is on the flanks, So basically, my steam tank it divides the board up in two mini boards, which are quite isolated from each other, except for my steam tank, which can go either way. I like that it can still go either way. I'm playing passively on my left flank. I have a cannon, and there's some multiple wound stuff on the opposing team. So I would say probably the best is to just hold back and just stay where it is. I still need some way of getting to this ballista and the other ballistas and the Titan mortar of my opponent. So alternatively, you could go forward, but then you'll end up in the Infernal Warriors and not, well, just grind them down probably. Yeah, so that looks like a bit of a plan. The only thing we still have left is the Wizard and Griffin, the Mortar, and both units of crossbows. The crossbowmen I don't care about at this point in the game, because my opponent doesn't have any chaff that I can reach. Any units that he has, I'm not gonna put a significant dent in them. And I don't need any scoring at this point in the game because this was only the second turn, and I don't remember what scenario we were playing. But yeah, sorry for that. And then the mortar is just going to shoot at anything it can see, really. So whether it's Kadim Incarnates, Bulls and Towers, or the Warriors, it doesn't really matter because on the Bulls and Towers I have a Strength 6 multiple wound hit, which is nice. On the Infernal Warriors I have a lot of hits, so that's also nice. But they do have some decent armor, so I'd rather shoot at the Bulls and Towers, I think. Yeah, that wraps it quite up. And I believe for the most part this is also what I end up doing. The only thing I didn't do is to put in the accurate order on my heavy infantry with Inquisitor, and in fact I actually forgot to shoot with the Inquisitor in the game that we played. So that yeah, would have been a better play to actually use this. Then let's go to the next one. So this is yeah, this is not even in the game really. So I was just seeing this video and how the deployment worked out, and I believe it didn't really work out very well for my opponent. In the sense that he could have done it way better than it ended out. So in the end, well, I'm facing with my Vampire Covenant a bit of an issue here because, well, this is one of the maps of the official map pack, and it has a building in the middle of the field and also a piece of impossible terrain on the top right. So on the top right, these are not ruins. This is actually impossible terrain, and probably I made it a bit too big for that. So yeah, basically for me the right flank is kind of useless because I can only manage to fit in barely 2 units between the building and the impossible terrain, and I could also make use of the space on the right. But it's not really attractive because yeah, Vampire Covenant they like just to get close in a bubble. Mostly also because the hereditary spell raises back in an aura. So obviously, if your caster is in the middle of some units, this is gonna be more effective than when he's on the verge of one of your mini armies, basically. So yeah, for me this is not really ideal to be on this side, at least. Also the other side, just forcing my entire army around this impossible terrain is... Yeah, I do have the Phantom Hosts and I do have the Dark Coach, so I can, which are both, well, they both have Ghost Step, so they can ignore terrain. But they have to still get out of 1 inch of any terrain at the end of their move. But theoretically, the Dark Coach could just charge through the building as long as it can see the enemy on the other side. Yeah, so my opponent, he decides to deploy on the right. He puts down some orcs with some bows and I believe a giant. First thing I would have done if I were him was to just deploy Skullers. I think he still suffered a bit of legacy of old days where war machines were just one choice for deployment. So if you were to deploy any war machine, you would have to deploy all of them at the same time for a single choice. But nowadays in 9th Age, I can't find any more any of this any rule like this where you have to deploy them all as one go. So I believe he could just drop one Skura and see what I would do, and do it again, and do it again, and just do it 4 times. And then by that time, I would have had to already make a choice on what I was going to do with my army. And in that way, I would have had to choose to go away from the impossible terrain, because I would not be able to counter on his deployment at all. Because, well, the only thing on the board would be just Skewers. So yeah, I would give that to my opponent as a tip for the next time. And then on the other hand, he kind of already knew that I was going to put my entire army in the middle of the field, more or less. Maybe a bit shifted to the left, that would be preferable. So this is what the deployment ended up to be for the both of us. As you can see, my opponent did lure me a bit into the right side of the table, which I think was a good initiative of him on his behalf. But his left flank is really empty right now. So yeah, that might be a little bit too empty. So my plan in this battle was actually to, well, I thought that maybe I could just force everything through the gap that I had, and yeah, try to push it through and win. So I see now that actually the orcs, the ones that are labeled orcs, are actually goblins, but I believe they just have bows, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, and that for me was actually yeah, quite a bad choice. I think the deployment, yeah, it was still okay, but I should have just shifted everything to go over the left flank and make him stand there like, yeah, what's going on? I don't know what I have to do with my army now. Because yeah, in the end, the amount of damage output for him, it's not amazing, because yeah, the Adbashers, he can well, the orcs and the Adbashers, I don't know if they have bows or not. If they have bows, yeah, he can forgo his move with these units to just shoot, and I'm perfectly fine with that. The goblins, if they shoot, yeah, that's fine. I don't really care. And the skewers, yeah, they have some interesting targets in the Winged Reapers. But probably I could first try to hide them a little bit behind the building, a little bit behind the ghouls with the cord. Yeah, it might be a bit tough, but in the end, on long range, they're gonna have 5s to hit anyway. So it might still be okay, and maybe he does shoot an entire Winged Reaper down, but over the time, I'll be able to raise it. So in this case, by just putting everything on one flank, I think he made it easier for me to decide to go all the way over the left. I remember at the time we played the battle, I was a bit, I don't know why I was frustrated or anything. I believe I just had a bit of a long day at work. So I decided to just ram it everything through the little gap and see what would happen, just to ascertain my predictions that it would go wrong, and indeed it went wrong. Yeah, so the better play would have been to focus a little bit more on the left, because I believe the Winged Reapers were one of my last drops. I should have just put him on the flank in the forest. That would have been way better. A little bit outside of the forest, maybe. However, my Necromancer is my general. My Dark Coach is far away from the Winged Reaper's den, so I do rely on my general to provide him with a march. But yeah, after 2 turns of marching, they don't really need to march anyway, because they would be close enough to be able to charge. So that should be okay, I think. And then the Dark Coach with the ghouls and the Phantom Hosts. Yeah, probably I should try and pull back the Phantom Hosts. I can leave the ghouls there just as a target for my opponent to shoot at, just to distract him. This is something that you can do in a lot of matchups. I don't know if it's really viable tactic, but you can just leave a unit somewhere, and if it's a not too expensive unit and your opponent is going to focus on it a lot, yeah, then it might be worth it to just dump a unit in the corner of the field and just leave your opponent to wreck it and take some units of his out again. So if his wizard with shamanism and his orcs and skewer, well, not the skewer probably, but even if just the orcs and the shamanism wizard were to focus entirely on the ghouls on the right, I would be very happy with that. And then the Dark Coach can provide a bit of a pivotal role in providing one turn where my opponent's wizard cannot fully advance towards the ghouls, so we can play a little bit of game of, well, do you want to come in my charge range? No, I don't. Do you want to come in mine? No, I don't. And then push each other away a bit. But yeah, so if I were to replay this, I would put my Winged Reapers all the way on the left, and I actually don't know who went for first turn here. And usually a lot of players say that with Vampire Covenant it's desirable to take the second turn. My magic is not that strong, so and I feel it's not that important. So yeah, I think I'd rather just go for first turn. I could, if I had dropped at a certain point and had taken first turn, the vampire count could have been a little bit more to the left even, just to threaten the zone, and the Winged Reapers could also have been there, so that the Feral Orcs would not have ended up there. And then yeah, I could have just put the big block of ghouls and the small block around the house on the left. This would have left my opponent with plenty of time to come around too. But if we're just fighting around the house, I don't think I mind. I think that would have been a better play for me. Yeah, definitely. So my priority right now, I was a bit stressed out about the skewers, because they can just target my vampire count anywhere except if I stand behind my Winged Reapers. Yeah, so yeah, once again, Winged Reapers should have been on the left. As far as my opponent goes, so he started with the goblins and the giant. Once again, he should have started with skewers everywhere. And then, yeah, he really focused heavily on castling up on the right a bit. I don't know why he was as confident as he was protecting a flank with just a giant and 2 chariots. Because if I had been him, I probably with the orcs you also run into the trouble of not having sufficient space for all of your models and wanting some models in specific places, such as the idol. And he also faced a bit of the issue with the impossible terrain in the middle. So yeah, probably I would have liked his orcs to be a bit more in the center, probably even in the position where the goblins are now. or even alternatively all the way on the left between the giant and the feral orcs. I think that would have been a good place for them. Yeah, so that's about this deployment.